Hello, I'm Enzo, and how hard is it to beat Crash Landing? After both the insane success of my last Minecraft run, and how much I enjoyed playing it, another run was inevitable. I knew I wanted to play Crash Landing. It's a mod pack I've known for a very long time, and I didn't realize how long that was until I looked at the details. It was released 9 years ago. That's just insane, because the only reason I know about this pack is the, former GOAT, Sandy. His content dropped off a lot after Fortnite, in my opinion, but his original Minecraft series are just awesome. I've been meaning to rewatch them. The first one I was going to rewatch was, funnily enough, this Crash Landing series. However, since I knew I'd be recording this run, I didn't watch it because I didn't want everything to be spoiled. This run is completely blind, and you can see that really early on. Starting out, it's insanely important to get as much done as possible in the first day, as these early hours will either make or break this entire run. The first step is to pick up all of our tools so I can turn in that quest, which gives me a camel pack. This is pretty much how I'll be drinking water. It makes sure that you don't accidentally drink too much and waste water bottles, and regulates your temperature, which is pretty important here. My next goal is to get some dust. Dust is where I'm going to get pretty much most of my resources from throughout this run. And from there, I just get to keep sieving. Sieving? I'm actually not sure which is the right pronunciation. Either way, my goal is to get some bone meal for my next mission. After turning this in, I get dirt, which allows me to plant and grow a tree. Once I get the sapling, of course. Obviously, I'm going with the easy route here because there's just no way I will be able to do the hard route. I have no clue how to do it in the first place. With this tree, we obviously get wood, which is incredibly important in all Minecraft runs. This will also let me truly start the run. I'll probably say that quite a few times in this because there's so much to do here, but this gets me closer to my next goal. That will be, of course, Tinker's Construct, one of my favorite mods of all time. I need wood to make some wooden tools, but I have to finish harvesting the tree first. This crook gives me a high chance to get saplings and silkworms, which I can either cook and eat later on or transform the tree into string. I guess that's the right way to put it. But honestly, the whole string thing is not worth it. You really need the normal leaves a whole lot more. I'm not sure what time you actually spawn in at, but the day is coming to an end. Not nighttime just yet, but I have to hurry up. I finish up with my tree and gather a little bit more dust before night finally settles in. At nighttime, the whole map just becomes blanketed with mobs. Going out there is a death sentence. So I'm definitely gonna have to get back inside, seal up the entrance, and start sieving more dust. Since there's absolutely zero room to grow trees in here, my entire goal now is just to sift dust throughout the night. There is not much more I can do. Most of the mobs will burn up in the day, but there are some spiders and creepers I'll have to deal with in the morning. That's what the needle gun is for. Since I went with the easy route, obviously, that gives me an entire stack of bone meal, which makes building the Tinker's Construct tools a whole lot easier. Even though I think I'd have plenty even with these 2 bones, this is still way better. If you haven't played this mod pack before, you might be wondering, why are you making these tools? Why not just make a normal wooden axe? Well, all of the vanilla tools have 1 durability in this mod, so you can break a total of 2 blocks before they break. You literally have to go with the Tinker's Construct tools. But I'm not complaining. I love this mod, like I said. And the best part is that your tools level up as you use them more, and you can replace the parts so you can upgrade them as you go. So I literally stick with all of these tools that I've made right now for the entire run, and they just get better. It's really cool. For the first few days though, this is the schedule. During the day, I'll be cutting down trees for as many saplings and logs as possible, and at night I'll be sieving dust for as much, dust products like bone meal, stone, stuff like that. I also decided to start clearing out my spaceship so I have more room to work with. You'll notice this little hole here that I made to collect some dust from under my base. Yeah, that's kind of bad because I forgot to put a light down there, and there will be some mobs later on when I venture a bit away from my ship, but oh well. For now though, the loop is still the same. I'm just trying to get as much wood and saplings as possible. One of the things that makes this mod pack so difficult is the fact you have to maintain a decent amount of food and water, because as you run out of those, you actually get debuffs, and it's really bad, so you need to keep your food and water topped off. Now, the first few quests give you quite a few water bottles, so water isn't a major issue. Same with food, at least for now. But I'm gonna have to get both of those worked on. The first one is water. Our first source of extra water is dirty water. It comes from crafting dirt and a glass bottle to make a dirty water bottle. Now, you cannot drink this by itself. You have to purify it in a furnace, which is what I need to sieve more dust for, because I need the stone pebbles it gives you to make stone to make a furnace. Another thing I keep forgetting about is the fact you can just wander a small area around your ship to pick up some bones and zombie flesh and stuff like that. Even though the entity range is very short, these drops are insanely useful, especially because I'll need bones for stuff later on. Even though I have plenty of bone meal now, I can always use more, and the bones themselves have other uses that are incredibly important for my survival. After more dust sieving, I finally have enough cobblestone to make enough slabs for a slab furnace. Not a full furnace, but I believe it actually works the same, because I can't tell a difference. Granted, I haven't played Minecraft in a few months, so I don't remember, but it feels the same. Either way, this allows us to finally start smelting stuff, like those dirty water bottles into normal clean water, or, more importantly for now, iron, from the iron dust we get from sieving dust. This is insanely important because this lets me make shears. I can start shearing the leaves off of trees, which still gives me saplings, but more importantly, these leaves can be put into compost bins to make more dirt, and thus get me more water, more spots to plant trees, and it is amazing. So there, we're finally making some real progress in this run. If you noticed earlier, you'll know that there is both a block of water and a block of blazing pyrolithium. There's a reason I'm not going near the pyrolithium right now. It will heat me up. So you might be wondering, why not just get water in bottles from the water block? That's because it actually gives you salt water, and if you try to put that in the furnace, it gives you salt, which, considering we get so much of it from the dust already, is completely worthless and a waste of our bottles and time. Trust me, I've tried quite a few things to get around stuff in this mod pack, but no, the devs have thought of literally everything already. There is no winning. Now that I've got the water situation stabilized, my next major concern is food. Now, food works differently in this mod pack than vanilla. Most of the normal and base foods, like even apples, are severely nerfed. Base apples only give half a hunger bar. Yes, you heard that right, half. And even less absorption, or the golden hunger. Pretty much everything being nerfed, that's gonna cause major problems. So the whole idea is it wants you to make better and higher quality foods with more ingredients. The other major change is diminishing returns, so you get less hunger if you keep eating the same food over and over. Thankfully, this only starts after you eat quite a bit of food, so you get a good head start before you have serious issues, but it's something I'll definitely have to look out for. One of the first things I always make in mod packs like this is the juicer. You can actually juice a good amount of things too, but most importantly, apples to start off with. This gives me apple juice, which fills 1 bar of hunger instead of just half. Either way, it also helps me diversify the foods I'm consuming. I don't have to worry about that right now, but it's something to think about for the future. I also have to set up a farm very soon, which is one reason I'm creating all of this dirt from all these leaves. I need plenty of farmland to grow plenty of crops for obviously plenty of food and different types of food. Another interesting way to regulate your temperature is with armor. Wood armor, also leather armor, which you can get leather by putting rotten flesh into a furnace, are great at regulating your temperature, making sure it doesn't go up too high or down too low. I mean, heat is your major issue here, but it does get cold at night. However, I found it's best to just not use any at all, unless you absolutely need it. And I always have to have my camel pack on because that's kinda necessary. On that topic, my main weapon has been the needle gun, but the Matic does a ridiculous amount of attack damage for its insane utility, so I'll be using that quite a bit as well. At least until I make myself a proper sword, which is still going to take a while. Either way, I don't want to use my weapons because I don't want to attack enemies and have the chance of getting hurt, losing hunger, and potentially dying. That would be bad. Since I wandered a bit further than usual, this is when this whole pit I dug becomes an issue. It's now filled with mobs. The good thing though is I really needed the bones from the skeletons, so that helped quite a bit. It just took me a minute to carefully take everything out. A creeper could easily one-shot me if I were too close to the explosion, but that's the only real thing of note for now. After completing some more quests, I got this autonomous activator. It's very similar to the clicking block that I used in the compact claustrophobia run, and this is what I'll be using to at least partially automate some dust sieving. The main issue is it's extremely derpy and it's hard to get the contents from the sieve into a chest. So this is the setup I came up with. I put a hopper above it and shield it on all directions. Hopefully the items go in there, but sometimes they do get launched out on different sides. It's dumb, but it works for now. And it's going to save me a lot of time because I can now do some other stuff while it works. After sifting through even more dirt, I've gotten quite a bit of rice, which you have to turn in for a mission. I didn't know this at the time, but apparently when submitting this, it actually takes all of the rice you made. So you should plant one down before you turn in the mission. This is one of the biggest mistakes I made in this run, because rice is an insanely important food, especially right now when I still don't have that many options. So yeah, that happened. On one hand, it forces me to figure out new stuff to turn into food, but it also ruins like one of my best sources of food, that being rice soup, I think, which gives 2.5 bars of hunger. It's insanely good compared to a lot of the other options I have available, right now at least. Using some of the bones I got from skeletons, I can make some stock. This is the first way you can make stock. Once you start growing vegetables, you can make it without having to get skeletons. And the first thing I can make with stock is unfortunately spider eye soup. I would have been making rice soup by now, but I think we all know what happened to that idea. On the left side of the ship, where the water is spilling out, there's some clay at the bottom of the water. We could use this clay and some bone meal to make porcelain clay, and just the clay to make a clay bucket. This is the start of our basic smelting. Well, okay, like iron and metals and stuff like that. It can also do lava, but I didn't use that till way later. Anyways, the real issue with this smelting is because of the Enviromine mod. I think that's the one that gives you the temperature and everything. The blazing pyrolithium is a major threat to you when you're close to it, even if it's in a bucket in your inventory. Yes, it actually calculates that. So once I have to start handling the blazing pyrolithium, I have to work extremely fast, especially because this is a mistake in my previous failed run. I had it in my inventory forever. I was wondering why I got heat stroke and I was so hot. You know, it's maybe the bucket of magma in my inventory. And apparently if you keep it in your inventory for too long, it actually does cool down into magma, making it way less efficient for the crucible. My entire plan for this run was to branch out of my main area right now and build the smeltery at least decently far away so it doesn't heat me up while I'm in my base the whole time. The other issue in dealing with blazing pyrolithium is the fact it spawns fire all around it, which also, guess what, heats you up. So I'm gonna have to bury it a little bit and make sure nothing can be set on fire around it. It's just a major issue. Turning in the mission gives you a little spout and you can turn it into a cute little smeltery. It's like my first smeltery from Tinker's Construct. But the goal isn't to put metal in just yet. The other neat thing about the Crucible is it lets you melt leaves, which we have plenty of now, thankfully. You can also put them in the fluid transposer to get water out of them at the same rate, but that takes power, which we only have a few cells, and I'd rather not use if I don't have to. Considering all this heat is free, well, I'll use the crucible instead. This is the main way I'll be getting water from now on, because it's the most efficient. Dirt is decent and all, and technically it takes 2 less leaves than the 10 that the crucible takes, but it takes even longer, and you have to put it in the furnace, which costs wood or any other fuel. And wood is still kind of precious, so obviously crucible. The other nice thing about this little tunnel that I made is the fact that I put some grass down with a grass seed. It was dirt before. I got the grass seed from sieving dirt. The cool thing about this is if you right click it with the mattock or any other hoe, you can get a bunch of random seeds from it, which is insanely useful. I was hoping to get rice seeds, but that didn't happen for a very, very long time. The only downside to this starter smeltery is the fact that you cannot make alloys in it. Even though you can just pour normal metals, it has to be the dust, I believe. I don't think you can put ingots in there or anything like that. But yeah, it still can't make actual alloys. For that, I need a grindstone. So I first have to make the metal ingots, then grind them, then smelt them back into ingots. That's going to be a fun process. After that, I made a very cheap watering can. You can also notice I've gotten some new crops, more importantly leeks, which can be used to make stock, so I don't have to rely on skeleton bones anymore. But this water can helps me accelerate the growth of my crops. Sometimes. Watering cans just don't like to work with me all the time. And I may have forgotten about it for like 90% of the run afterwards. I've just been using bone meal most of the time. But still, that is a thing. Getting a small garden, at least, is extremely important because this is where all my best food is going to be coming from. So everything was going perfectly normally. I was going to head back outside to harvest more trees and everything like that, but then everything took an unexpected turn. Since these trees can harbor skeletons and other mobs under them, I knew they would be a major issue, but that's not what got me here. It was the spiders that got me, and there's a freaking cave one, which are poisonous. So, unfortunately, that is my first death. So the game also does this thing where it shows no environmental data. Yeah, that's just... I don't know how all this survival, hardcore, shell stuff works. But long story short, I managed to fix that. However, my health now looks like it's in normal survival mode. I did check, the difficulty is still hardcore, but the health bar is just like this now. Nothing I can do about it. This did get me to thinking, though, I'm gonna have to do something about these trees and the spiders that stay in the morning. Because I don't want that to happen ever again. And this is my first death for a very, very long time in this run. As you can see here, I tried to re-enable the questing mode, but it's already enabled. And I later confirmed that yes, I only had 3 lives, despite the fact I respawned in my shell. So I, yet again, don't know how any of that works. Upon further investigation, the world is definitely in survival mode, yet the difficulty is hardcore. So yeah, it's still hardcore. Trust me, I learned that the hard way later on. That's all you need to know for now, though. This entire time, well, and throughout the entire run, I'm just working on quests. And for this one, it wants you to make all of those alloy blends, which I need this grindstone for. It's an incredibly slow and painful process, as you can see here. I really have to check it more often, because if you right click for too long, like if there's nothing to grind inside, you will break the crank. I only did it twice, I think, but still, it's incredibly annoying. Either way, this lets us make some early alloys, the most important of which is Invar. Even though it does cost 2 iron and 1 nickel, which means I cannot make it just yet, because you can only get nickel from sieving gravel or sand. It's an insanely good one to have because that lets me make Invar shears. So that's what I'm working towards. In the meantime, I can just make some Tinker's alloy, aka bronze. I don't know why they didn't just say bronze, because that confused me. And electrum, which is silver and gold. Really good for some other stuff, but not useful right now. Another thing going on throughout the entirety of this run is, of course, that autonomous activator just going to absolute work with the sieve to, well, sieve all of this dust. And if you're wondering how I'm getting all of this dust, I built this massive staircase deep into the ground. And I'm using a button, or you can use any other object that'll break falling blocks. This is some classic Minecraft knowledge that I've known basically since I started playing. This is the easiest way to clear dust and get plenty of it to sieve, which is awesome. And I'm using stairs because it gives me a better option than jumping and wasting way more hunger than I'd like to. Because yet again, food is kind of a limited resource right now. Another thing that I need to do to advance my progression further is get these grass seeds, which you get from sieving dirt, and combine them with bone meal. You can do this with a bunch of other dyes, but I need to get some of those dyes first, and I don't need every single type just yet. But these are the seeds that will let me get plastic eventually. These are flying flowers. I didn't remember this at the time, but apparently some of these seeds have, let's just say, unique properties to them. They like to do specific things. You might have noticed it a bit there. The flying flowers like to, well, fly and just defy gravity. I didn't quite realize how crazy it would get with some of them, but that's just something to look out for. Unfortunately, even though I can grow these, I can turn them into bone meal if I really wanted to, I can't turn them into plastic yet because I still have a bunch of stuff I need to get and do before I can start making plastic. And that is going to require just an insane amount of iron. I also made a bow from Tinker's Construct, but I didn't use it for very long. It was really, really bad. It was a good idea, I just don't have great materials to make all of the parts for the bow, especially the arrow tips. It might have been smart to invest in some decent stuff later on, but even by then I had plenty of materials to keep my needle gun stocked up, which was the much better option. Because of the previously stated mob issue, I had a new idea, and that's going to be the classic mob grinder. Not in a traditional sense where one's up in the sky, but using the classic trapdoor trick. If you didn't know, some blocks in Minecraft, like trapdoors, even if you open them, mobs will still register them as a full block and try to walk over them, which means you can build a pit for them to fall down and then farm them in. Which is what I'll be doing, because that'll help me out a ton with zombies and skeletons. Spiders are still a minor issue, but some of them will at least get stuck in there. This also gives me a way to further secure my base from enemies. Even though I can't make alloys with this crucible smeltery, I can still make tool upgrades, which is insanely useful. Now, I did upgrade my tools later. I didn't know this at the time. Don't ask me why I didn't figure it out, but the tool has to be fully repaired before you can place new parts on it. Yes, I am just that dumb sometimes. I thought you needed a better tool forge. No, you do not. You literally just have to repair the tool fully. Yeah, I haven't played this mod in a while, if you couldn't tell. As you can see here, the mob grinder is working exactly as I planned it to. It's trapped plenty of enemies in, giving me free XP and of course their loot. At this point though, the Matic is still my best weapon. Like I said, this bow is just horrible. But I just wanted to say that because yes, I have loot now. And also, yes, that is an albino enderman. Or frosty enderman. Whatever, I'll call it albino. Another thing I did, even though it was useless in the end, is build this giant underground area to grow trees in. It took me a while before I actually secured a perimeter around my base, but in an absolute emergency, I can use this to still survive underground if I truly can no longer go outside. But I still can. As long as I keep the trapdoors open. Don't know how that happened. I'm going to start this section by saying this is definitely not the intended way to play this run. You are definitely supposed to go and find the abandoned, or ruined technically, cities and loot them for a ton of good stuff. That's definitely what I should have done, but I did not, and I could have used a lot of that stuff from those. Instead, I'm taking the far more difficult route of doing pneumanic craft. Pneumanic, that word just always gets me, because PN English is fun. Anyways, yes, that's what I should have done, but instead, I'm going to do all of this without city loot, which means I'm going to need many times more iron than I would have needed otherwise. To start pneumanic craft, I need to make compressed iron. The first way to get compressed iron is with TNT and iron. Just like in compact claustrophobia, but unfortunately this doesn't give us steel. That TNT explosion was way larger than I was expecting. That's like 2 or 3 times vanilla. I think it's absolutely awesome. Unfortunately though, you may have noticed you don't get all of the iron back from the process. So this is going to take me quite a while, considering how long it already takes to get iron in the first place. So I'll be back whenever. This is when my few brain cells finally hit each other and had an idea. I first tested if you can make lava in crucibles, which you very much can. Then goes back to the classic Minecraft knowledge of making a cobblestone generator. Since I definitely can't afford any way to automate it just yet, I would have to mine it all on my own. But still, that's pretty good. My final design ended up being a smooth stone generator instead of cobblestone, because cobblestone takes a slight bit longer to mine, and that's definitely not worth the time. But I would end up having to make a cobblestone generator for my plan. Either way though, this makes getting cobblestone a whole lot easier than waiting to get some from dust. This also means I can do some other neat stuff now that I have an actual building block, which is pretty awesome. Here is when I finally figured out that I just had to repair my shovel to put the new iron shovel head on. There you go. That's when I finally realized it. Currently, I'm working on 2 projects to further my progression. The first one is a new pickaxe head, because my current pickaxe is kind of dying, but more importantly, transfer nodes. I finally remembered these existed in this mod pack after mining forever, and they're actually not that expensive to make. So the one thing I didn't know is that I didn't actually need the mining upgrade that I eventually made for this. I could have legitimately just slapped it right on to the cobblestone generator. Yes, I had to redo it, and there may have been a slight mistake with the obsidian. I will not talk about that. But yes, once this is all done, I have a completely free infinite source of cobblestone now. And it filled up way faster than I expected, so yeah, now I have a decent building block. I could have expanded my base, but I really didn't want to use wood, because I have no clue what the special mobs out there are. I'm willing to bet the red creepers do something with fire. I'm pretty sure they do. But I didn't want to risk my entire base burning down, so that's why I haven't been expanding too much just yet. But yeah, now that that's done, I can progress even faster with a true source of cobblestone. I really have no clue how I didn't think of that way earlier. The other thing I cast while I still have this mini smeltery is an iron sword, because you actually have to cast the sword guard and blade. You can't just make those and make a normal wooden sword or something like that. So this gives me an iron sword with a, wooden stick and copper guard. This is going to be my main melee weapon from now on, which is pretty awesome. I still think it was crazy that the Matic did that much damage though. I'm still amazed by that. The one downside to this sword is the fact I have to repair it with iron instead of bone or copper, but the damage and performance is definitely worth the price. It also appears I've been pretty stupid this whole time, and fluid ducts don't cost hardened glass. I can make the opaque ones with 2 pieces of copper and 1 piece of lead. Yeah, that would have been way better to know earlier. With this, I can mildly automate water production. This whole time, I've just had a hopper above a second crucible. I have the blazing pyrolithium flowing 1 block more, but now I have actual water storage. Except I had to figure out a servo because it's been way too long since I played this version of thermal expansion. While I was clearing out some of my land, I found that there are actually metal dust blocks in some of the mountains, or hills. The dust piles, let's go with. And you can kind of see what I've been working on. I'm building a massive perimeter with cobblestone slabs so that I can keep all the mobs out and build a nice torched-in area. And this is only possible due to that infinite supply of cobblestone. The one issue I found with it is that the small spiders can go through the slabs and normal spiders can climb them, but that's only it. Every other mob, besides, like Enderman, stays out. It's perfect. Over this entire time, I'm still trying to get compressed iron. Well, enough to finish up the pressure chamber. This tiny TNT is far more effective than that massive TNT, and it's way cheaper. But unfortunately, I still don't have enough to finish the pressure chamber. This is definitely still going to take a while. One of the missions I completed gives me a machine frame, which you need to make most of the machines and automation stuff in this mod pack. Now, I decided to use this one I have, even though I could have made an autonomous activator, the thing I can automate sieves with. I decided to go with a pulverizer. This lets me automate pulverizing cobblestone into gravel, so I don't have to do all the work myself. And I don't know how I didn't notice this right now, but I picked up a piece of sand off of that drying rack later on. I didn't know how it got there, but yeah, that's how. The output is literally going up onto that drying rack. I thought it was pretty funny after I figured it out. With a new perimeter also comes a new mob farm. It's a giant staircase down from my base into this place, but the fall should weaken the mobs first. Oh, well, it will weaken the mobs first. Then I can finish them off and get all their loot. Awesome. Here's another thing I wish I had known way earlier. So dust is obviously the lowest form of all ores. And I could have apparently used a hammer to crush all this instead of a pulverizer. I didn't realize that until way later. But this iron ore gravel can be ground down into sand, which also gives me a chance to get even more of the product. The sand chunks. It's hard to explain how it all kind of works. Basically, as you grind it down with a pulverizer or hammer, you have a higher chance to get more of it, which can be extremely useful, especially considering how much iron I'm going to be needing throughout this entire run. After all this time, I finally have the compressed iron I need to finish this stupid pressure chamber. And yes, I needed one more than 4, so I had to make 2 extras. It's a shame I won't be needing those other walls, but I will be needing spare parts, because I've never used this thing before. I have a general idea of how it works, but it's a learning experience, let's just say that. To use the pressure chamber, you first open the pressure chamber up, throw your item in, and then put some fuel into the compressor. Then you wait a very long time, because this basic air compressor is really bad and takes forever to actually pressurize the chamber. And this is only plastic, which doesn't require much pressure. Other stuff later on, mostly compacted iron, which instead of losing some to the explosion, you can get a 1-to-1 ratio in the pressure chamber, but you just need an insane amount of pressure. I definitely recommend building 2 or 3 air compressors, but you do have to be careful because there can be too much pressure and it can blow up your pipes. Trust me, that happens quite a bit in this run. Anyways, after enough time, and of course enough pressure, the seeds finally transform into plastic. Unfortunately, I have to break back in there to retrieve my plastic, letting all of the pressure that I just generated all right back out. Unfortunately, I can't really do much with the plastic just yet, but that is a major achievement in my journey. The main thing I can make with the pressure chamber is printed circuit boards, which will let me make different circuits and ultimately machine frames and all cool machines and stuff. The issue, they are insanely annoying to make. They have a bunch of steps, I need multiple types of seeds, it's going to be a nightmare. To start off, I need these creeper plant seeds, which I wonder if creepers actually drop them. I'm actually not sure. The easier, I'll put that in air quotes there, way to get them is with grass seeds and cactus dye. I say it's easier, but it was insanely annoying because I have to sift sand to hopefully get the cactus seeds. Then obviously I had to wait for the cactus to grow. So that's my next goal. It just took a while to get there. Before I got to all that though, I decided to pretty up the base a bit. With this beautiful new perimeter and infinite supply of cobblestone, I think it's time to make the place look half livable at least. These blocks, which are better looking stone bricks, are what I chose. They're a bit more expensive to make, and I don't actually know the ratios if I'm losing blocks or gaining any, but I don't care. These look really good. So that's another thing I'll be skipping over. You'll see these kind of lining my base. I also raised the ceiling by quite a bit, because it is getting a little cramped and claustrophobic in here. Funnily enough, the one time where I can build my base as large as I want, I don't. Up until now, of course. I was just scared of the mobs. Since I don't have access to obsidian just yet, well, mineable and usable obsidian, I decided to upgrade my pickaxe with some redstone to make it mine faster, because I have a ton of demolition that I need to do. But I think it was a waste of 100 redstone in the end. As you can see, this is the final result, and man, it looks so much better in here. I didn't do all the walls because that would have taken even longer, I just wanted a higher roof. It feels better in here already. After who knows how long, trust me, I wasn't counting, it took forever, I finally got my first cactus seed. Cactus seeds, but it grows a single cactus? Yeah, I know it's just weird like that. Anyways, this will be growing, but as usual, it's going to take forever for it to grow because you can't bone meal it or anything, so yeah, I'll be back when that is done. While I'm waiting for that cactus to grow, I decide to make another part I'm going to need to eventually get the PCBs. This is the blueprint, and all I'm using this for is so I can make the UV box, which is going to develop the PCB. But obviously I need to be able to make them in the first place. Either way, that's another part of the step done. I also made some compressed iron in the pressure chamber, the main issue being it takes forever for it to get up to pressure, and I just lose all of that once I open it back up, but thankfully I don't lose any of the iron at this point. The UV box also needs redstone lamps, which are easy enough. Redstone and glowstone. I get both of those from dust, so that's not a big deal. And boom, UV box. Now, I know it sounds really weird, but all the new Minecraft stuff runs on air pressure, so I gotta plug that into the system. It's weird, a light that runs on air. Actually, you know what? That sounds really cool. I wonder if someone's made that in real life. Another thing I completely forgot I could craft now are leadstone energy conduits. I am so used to flux ducts, so I'll keep calling them flux ducts, and I even searched that up quite a few times. But I need these so I can transfer some power to that pulverizer, because I want to keep pulverizing. The other thing I can make are these survival generators. These are pretty cheap and actually very efficient, but the issue is with the EnviroMine mod, they get extremely hot, so I had to put them far away from my living area. But this gives me the ability to use the pulverizer infinitely, as long as I keep them supplied with fuel, but as you see by all the trees out here, that's not a major issue. My cactus finally grew, but I still needed the grass seeds. The best part? I got another rice seed. Finally, I can start growing rice, one of the most valuable things I can get right now. Like I said earlier, this gives me access to new foods and better foods, like I said earlier, rice soup. That's gonna be awesome. It literally gives the same amount as this carrot cake that I've been making, which is slightly more difficult, because I have to make dough, which also requires salt and water, then it needs sugar and carrots. So I'm like, yeah, I think I know which one will be better. But I obviously still have to diversify my food, so it's just a win-win in this case. After a while, I finally got the grass seeds to make my creeper plant seeds. Obviously, I've never gotten anywhere near this far before. I've only done like the spaceship and water stuff. So I had no clue what to expect. I definitely wasn't expecting the creeper seeds to blow up, because apparently that's what they do. I mean, like a creeper, makes sense. But they're not always guaranteed to drop extra seeds. So yeah, that's one thing. You kind of just have to learn how all of these seeds work. And I found that they explode and spread multiple seeds better if they're on dirt. They don't seem to work well with farmland. But that gives me access to more creeper seeds and hence green plastic, which puts me even closer to finally getting circuit boards. There's still the issue of having to manually open up the pressure chamber each time, but hey, this is major progress. I am very happy with it. With green plastic, I can finally complete this quest. Now, out of all the reward options, I knew I was going with squid seeds, because I don't know how I'm supposed to get these seeds any other way, and they are absolutely vital to making the printed circuit boards. As good as those speed upgrades would be, I definitely need the squid plant seeds first. And I don't remember if this is one of the things you can find in the cities. I hope so, but I did not think of that at the time. Next up, I need etching acid, which isn't actually the worst thing to get. It's just a bunch of mob remains, mob drops, put together with a bucket of water into the pressure chamber. Pretty simple. I also made a diamond chest because sifting all that gravel gave me enough diamonds to do that, which I actually don't know the number of slots, but I think it might be 2.5, maybe even 3 normal chests. So that is amazing. That gives me more space to just throw stuff and then search for it for hours. Not being able to get those speed upgrades is a huge shame, because this etching step in the UV box takes forever, and that's just for a single one. I haven't even made the etching acid yet, so I still have to do that before I can go on to the last step and pretty much finish up the PCB. After getting the etching acid, you use it by, well, pouring out the bucket in a little tile and throwing the PCB in. And yes, you heard me right, that's how it works. You might be wondering, will it despawn? Yes, it will. It happened to me a few times, and I am not happy with it. So you have to pick up the acid, because it will hurt you if you go in it. Obviously, it's acid. You gotta pick up the PCB to reset its timer, then drop it back down. It's a whole process. Thankfully, you can automate it, but I didn't get to that until way later on. Now that I finally have the finished printed circuit board, I can actually start doing stuff and make new machines. Kind of. I have a very limited amount of these things, and they are insanely difficult to make currently, so I'll have to be very careful with how I use them. The PCB itself is actually the worst part. Everything else just costs redstone, and then for machine frames, it's glass, Invar, and Electrum. That's not bad at all. I had some ideas for what I wanted to use the first circuit boards for, but the mission log wants me to use 2 of them. And I decided, why not, because I don't really know what else to do right now. It wants me to make a grinder and reactant dynamo, and I'll be putting this in my mob farm, which is now more of a mob grinder, I guess. This partially automates it and gets me mob essence, which is XP. This XP can then be thrown back into the reactant dynamo to create power with blaze powder. Since this is a super old mod pack, it doesn't tell you that, so I had to look it up, but that is the entire process. This also gives me another and really good power option. The next mission tells me that I should make a glacial precipitator. This lets me make ice and snow from water, and it's pretty awesome. I thought, why not, since this is the only chance you have to make it, cause it gives you snow. I don't think I'm ever gonna find snow anywhere on this planet. This gives me an option to cool myself down if I somehow get too hot, and a high golem. I have no clue how you create these things normally, but I guess it's pretty cool. Unfortunately, it despawned because I was planning to use it as bait for the mob grinder later on, so that's unfortunate. It didn't really do anything. Another thing I got from the whole PCB mission line is this rubber tree. It's pretty neat. When you mine the logs, it gives you raw rubber. You can smelt this into rubber bars for some Mine Factory Reloaded stuff, or you can smelt it further and make plastic dust, I believe it is, which you can make plastic sheets with, so you don't have to deal with the annoyance of the pressure chamber. This is the other good way to get plastic. The only annoyance is that the logs are a 1 log to 3 plank ratio instead of 1 to 4, which is insanely annoying to me. I'm not used to that kind of math, okay? But I guess the log isn't the main point here, it is the rubber. For now, I'll be making this pressure chamber interface. This is the thing that lets me automatically input and output items. Unfortunately, I had a ton of trouble when using it though, because you have to orient each one a certain way, and you still lose pressure even when the thing is completely sealed, which kind of sucks. I was hoping you wouldn't lose much pressure, but it feels like you lose a ton, especially while using one crappy little air compressor. But at least I don't lose as much pressure as an entire opening up of the pressure chamber normally does. Not the best, but certainly better than before. Another use for all of that mob essence I've been getting is some mob spawn eggs. The first one you get is a chicken, and even though I didn't get the footage, I accidentally threw the first egg that you're supposed to submit into the, quest submitting block thingy. So that's what's in this golden lasso. It's extremely useful for transporting mobs like that. You might have also noticed those neat little circuits in my inventory. Those are capacitors and transistors. It basically just takes, the seeds that I have to turn into plastic with compressed iron and redstone. So they get pretty expensive. Considering I need 3 each to make a single printed circuit board, yeah, the price just skyrockets like crazy in this playthrough. It doesn't help that the plants are extremely annoying to farm as well. From sifting all of that sand earlier, I conveniently have ancient spores. If you played a mod pack before with these, or if you've seen my compact claustrophobia video, you'll know I'm currently making soul sand. Now, there's always useful stuff from soul sand in these mods, and I'm going to be needing quartz and eventually nether warts from it. But we all know my luck with the drop rates, and since they're already extremely low, yeah, I'll be here for a bit. The super cool thing I noticed though is that when the mycelium was all over the place, and when I was making witch water, mushrooms would actually grow here, which is insane because mushrooms are yet another good source of food. I can make quite a few foods with them. That's another win-win. The reason I needed the quartz is so I can start working on applied energetics. But no, I am nowhere near a full system just yet. I'll be making a simple Emmy chest with a crappy little 1K storage byte. It's not much, but it will give me some extra storage. Honestly though, I don't think it was truly worth it in the end. I think I should have just waited until I had enough to build the full system. Which I did eventually, but yeah, like I said, a bit of a waste. The next machine I'm going to work on is this harvester. You can probably guess what it does. It's going to help out quite a bit with trees and stuff. Mostly trees. I didn't really get it to work well with crops. It's a pretty simple recipe, and I've already made the circuit board I needed for it. Setting it up is pretty easy, and I conveniently had all the emeralds I need, well, plenty at least, to make a massive upgrade for it so it can shear all the trees. And obviously I'm going to set it to shear leaves as well, because that's pretty important. The only downside is that it makes sludge, so every so often I literally just break this machine and place it back down. Later on, I made a drum edition for this, but yeah, I don't feel like boiling the sludge, because I tested it in creative. It actually poisons you if you get too close, but it gives you clay and dirt and stuff like that, so maybe I should have done it instead. I noticed this one night as well. That is a charged creeper. I'm guessing naturally spawned because I'd never heard any thunder, never saw any lightning. The cursed stuff doesn't even end there. There's this freaking baby infected zombie, which I faced like 3 of these. These things are a menace in this run. And I feel like at one point I saw a baby charged creeper as well. Yeah, there it is. This special mobs mod is just something else. I don't think I ever want to see this again. These are abominations. Because of the fact I have 2 chickens now, even though it's kind of hard to tell there, I think you all know what I'm going to do. Chicken is a decent source of food in this mod pack, so I'll naturally want more. Only downside is the amount of chickens that I had at one point. It was just super noisy there. but I turn the game volume down for you guys, so you don't have to hear that. All the time, at least. I skipped the entire construction phase because this thing took a little bit to build, but this is a massive extension of my mob grinder. AKA, there are 3 areas for mobs to fall in now. My whole goal here is to attract the attention of even more mobs to both get more XP, to get the next animal I want from missions, and I need ender pearls for one of my missions. So yeah, that's why I'm here. One thing I want to test out with the glacial precipitator that I've literally not been using at all is making some ice blocks, because I thought, alright, it's ice, it would cool me down when I get too hot. In a rare twist, I was actually right. It does cool me down quite a bit. The only issue with it is the fact it melts. Now it's kind of neat because the blocks don't actually update when it melts, so I just have to be careful with it. But yeah, that's not a long-term solution. I'm not facing major overheating issues as long as I don't stay too close to the hot machines for too long. Just something I want to at least check. This whole time, I'm still working to make more circuit boards because I'm always gonna need those. Pretty much after you get them, you just need them for the rest of the run. This time, I made the slightly smarter decision to make another autonomous activator so I can finally automate another sieve. Since I have plenty of resources to do most stuff with at this point, I decided to make a new system to collect the loot from the sieve. Instead of having this derpy system where it just goes outside sometimes, I used a stream of water to place it into a hopper. It worked far better than the first way. The next thing I decided to make is small but insanely important: a drum. This allows me to hold 256 buckets of water instead of just 16 that the hardened tank was giving me. This is extremely important because I always have way too much water being produced, and water is obviously important, so I want to make as much as physically possible. One of the quest rewards I got earlier were these 2 leadstone thrusters. Thrusters are the most annoying thing to make in the jetpack, and everything else is relatively simple. After that is a hang glider, which costs leather. Conveniently though, we get plenty of leather, like I said earlier, from smelting rotten flesh. After creating the rest of the stuff I need to complete and turn in the mission, I'm pretty much ready to go start exploring the cities. I want to start looting them. This is definitely something I should have done a super long time ago. But if you haven't seen me play games like this before, I am an extremely safe player. I'm not really much of a survival fan in the first place. To finish up my preparations, I made a diamond helmet. I don't have enough for boots, but still, I'll take any armor that I can get, equip my jetpack, and start heading north, which is the direction the ship is facing in. So, it says that the first city should be 200 blocks north. I went that way for quite a bit. I literally could not find anything. I even scouted around for a while after that, but I eventually returned to my base because my jetpack was running low. And it's not like the city's buried or anything like that. It is very obvious once you found one. I was just super unlucky because I think there's like an earlier version where cities were more common and much larger, and I'm guessing the position of the first one was changed then. I'm not entirely sure. Since I tried again and still had no luck, I decided to hop into a new world on creative mode real quick, just to make sure that cities were actually spawning in my world. With confirmation that they were, and actual coordinates for one, I can finally actually head out and get to my city and start looting it for some really good stuff. I didn't realize just how much good loot all of the cities had until I actually got to start looting them. The first building I found is a factory. This is really important because this is where I can find my smelteries. Well, smeltery and high furnace, because Tinker's Steelworks is also a mod that I actually never knew about until now. The main issue with cities is the fact they're just jam-packed with mobs, so they're extremely dangerous. And I was completely blind at the time and didn't realize, but at the top of the screen you can see what block I'm looking at. And the Tinker's Construct is mined with a pickaxe, while the Rock Digger is mined with the hammer, so that I get all the fragments from it, because the crumbling stuff cannot be used. Either way, everything I pick up will be reused to make my new smeltery, which will be awesome. It's just going to take a while to mine everything up, and my pickaxe is breaking way faster than I expected. I really should have brought a backup for it. So this is the first stuff I found. Extremely good. I didn't stay for too long after that, mostly because I knew there were going to be a ton of mobs and I wanted to get back home. There were some other neat things in the other buildings, like some redstone, and later on I found some really cool stuff in cities. But nothing too special for now. I was legitimately just here for the smeltery. I didn't even realize when I was looting everything, but I managed to get enough to actually build a full smeltery and a high furnace, which is awesome. Unlike normal Tinker's Construct, you can't actually smelt stone in the normal smeltery. You have to do it in the high furnace, and you get even less seared stone. With the ability to make the high furnace, then I can expand both the smeltery and then the high furnace. I learned this a bit later on, but I'll tell you guys now. The main difference between the two is the smeltery is, default Tinker's Construct, but obviously I just said it can't make seared stone. The smeltery is where you can do your alloys and everything like that, and I don't think the high smelter can do special stuff like water and lava to make obsidian, so like I said, no alloys. And the smeltery gives you double the output of your ores. Well, dust, stuff like that. But apparently the high smelter gives you 3 times that instead of just the smeltery's 2. So that's an amazing investment. Either way, basic smeltery up now. The main difference with the high furnace, besides, the 3 times output, is the fact it won't make alloys. Which is actually pretty good, because that lets you put in pretty much whatever ore combinations you want, and you don't have to worry about that. But it costs charcoal instead, which honestly is not bad, because that's relatively easy to make, even though lava is literally free. And the main issue with it is once you get it all set up and powered up, or heated, I guess, you actually have to wait for it to reach a decent temperature to start melting your ores. Just like real life. I actually really like it because the temperatures are relatively realistic when it comes to melting temperature. The other super useful thing you can do with the high furnace is make steel. Now, I had to research this because you can use a variety of ingredients and they don't all do the same thing. And you can actually put iron ore dust in here to make the steel, but I did that before I put all the right ingredients in. For making steel, the combo I went with is gunpowder, because I have tons of it, aluminum dust, because I have tons of it, and sand, because that's the only thing I can afford. And after putting more iron products in there, boom, 9 ingots or 1 block of steel. I don't have many uses for steel just yet. However, I can use it to make new tools. Well, upgrade and repair my tools. But right now, I can put it back into the smeltery, which I honestly could have just used as high furnace, but I didn't want to deal with the odd amounts. And I can make all new parts for my tools to upgrade them, which is going to be awesome. Because my sword is iron and all of my other tools are copper, which is nice and cheap, but now that I have the ability to make all of this steel for relatively cheap, yeah, I'm definitely upgrading. That's going to be massive. It's only at this point that I realized I can finally use the smeltery to make obsidian. Now, this gives me obsidian blocks, which have many purposes, and then I realized I can make alumite, which is technically better than steel, but man, it's a bit more expensive, and I don't want to go through all of that trouble, so I'll just stick with my steel for now. But I wish I had known that earlier, because I definitely would have made all of my tools alumite first. Another thing I had to test in creative, just to make sure, is building a nether portal. Now, I really should have explored more, but my preliminary findings is that it's a void. Sure, there might be some tech with a jetpack and hang glider, but I heavily doubt there's anything there. Considering you spawn in the void, I'm guessing they really don't want you to explore it. I doubt there's anything there. Considering we will need blaze rods to make a brewing station if we want to make that speed upgrade for new mana craft, the way you get blaze rods is in the cities. There are blaze spawners here. I just didn't find one in that initial exploration. But they do exist, trust me. Since I wasn't paying attention, my air compressor accidentally exploded, as well as the valve next to it. Thankfully, I have 3 other valve blocks, but I'm gonna have to build a new air compressor. I also lost the fuel inside of it, but that's no big deal since it's just wood. Still, that is incredibly annoying. Thankfully, I had plenty of leftover compressed iron so that I don't have to make any more of that. That would have been even worse. But it also broke my UV box, which was extremely annoying to make because of those emeralds. So I'll have to make that again as well. I really hope this doesn't happen again. Okay, you can't really tell by how I'm saying it. Yeah, it happens many more times in this run. I really should have just built a safety valve, but I'm stubborn and didn't make it. So there will be more blown compressors in this run. Another color of plastic I need is red, which means I need red dye. Originally, I was trying to get that from flowers and grass, but I don't know if they spawn in this mod. I was not getting that luck. One thing I kind of figured is that I'd have to go back and find some red dye in a city, which would be unfortunate. I found yellow dye there, so I'm guessing that's where red dye is. Plus, I'll need orange dye later on, so I guess there's 2 reasons I need to go get it then. Which means I'll have to go back to a city. Great. The next machine I'm going to be making is a redstone furnace. An absolute classic. I don't truly need it, but eventually when I upgrade my power, it'll be far more useful than just normal furnaces. At this point though, I think it's actually less efficient. Actually, it might be more efficient, but just slightly than normal furnaces. Still, it is a 3rd furnace to my total setup if I am smelting that much at once, which I probably won't be. I've been getting more and more chickens over time, and since they're starting to truly annoy me, I decided to start dealing with them because, I mean, chicken, it's good food. It's extremely convenient that they also drop eggs, because chicken and eggs are 2 things I can use to make food. Specifically, the eggs can be turned into mayo, which I would not eat in real life, I think it's gross. But mayo, chicken, and bread, or fish instead of chicken, can be used to make sandwiches. This gives me a ridiculous amount of food for all the components. It's extremely nice. So this is another item I'll be sustaining myself off of. I can make quite a few things with chicken, but the main 2 are going to be chicken sandwiches with bread, mayo, and a skillet, or instead chicken pot pie with dough, chicken, potatoes, and carrots. These are both really good foods that'll carry me quite a long way. So chickens are probably one of the best sources of food early on, and they're relatively easy to breed because you just need seeds. And you can actually get them super early if you have good luck with your eggs from the dust. You don't actually have to do the mission where you give the quest block XP or anything like that. To help out with my harvester, I built an actual furnace generator, the one that requires a circuit this time, and another drum. This time it's for the sludge, because like I said earlier, I literally did not deal with the sludge at all in this run. It just collected in this drum. Since the harvester doesn't need all of the energy that the furnace generator produces, I put the rest into this energy cell. But that is the entire tree set up for now. I still haven't built the planter, and I literally didn't even get it to work till near the end of the run. So that is my current tree and leaf situation. After all that procrastinating, I finally headed back to the city, where I first learned that the wool is actually rock wool, not normal wool, which means I can't even break it down for dyes. That's insanely annoying, but smart by the developers. Another plan of mine completely foiled. So I'll just have to go the normal way of looting every single chest I can find to get red dye. Thankfully, the dyes aren't extremely rare, and as a bonus, I get some redstone ore, which I can put into the pulverizer to get 6 redstone out. It's amazing, because I'm going to need a whole lot of redstone from now on. Making circuit boards is extremely expensive. These cities really do have some really good loot. I got blazing pyrolithium. Later on, in other cities, I got some endurium. Of course, you've got blaze spawners for blaze rods. Even though I have enough blaze powder, I need the rods to make a brewing stand to eventually make those speed upgrades for new mana craft. Naturally, the red seeds are fire seeds, because of course they are. To grow fire seeds, you can't do it on dirt, which makes quite a bit of sense. You have to use netherrack. Conveniently, I have some lava and a stone barrel. Lava and redstone makes netherrack. Thankfully, I also had a spare bit of grass seeds, because that would have been even worse to have to find. Just like all the other seeds, you throw it onto the ground, bone meal it, and it grows. The only thing these fire seeds seem to do is occasionally light the ground around them on fire, but nothing too crazy. It's actually very easy to grow, which I like. The next seed I made is using yellow dye, called helium seeds. Now, I saw that these grow on the roof, and I was immediately concerned. It also requires netherrack, because of course it does. So I was trying to find a place where I could grow these without them just going everywhere, and I figured out it's where the water originally spawns when your ship was crashed. I knew this was not going to go well either way, and that feeling was correct. So, when I tried to place the netherrack, I forgot to collect them. Long story short, when I tried to place them, and I broke a block above it, it escaped. Don't know why I didn't get it first, but yeah. Needless to say, those seeds are now gone forever. It's not even that bad, but I now have to get more grass seeds. At least I got 2 yellow dye. But that still kinda sucks. That honestly just looks cursed. I'm not used to things growing like this in Minecraft just yet. Well, okay, I guess vines exist, but still. That's bizarre. Thankfully, you can keep right-clicking it with bone meal to just get more instead of having to break it, like every other plant so far. So that gives me yellow plastic, which I don't need very much of, and of course it's the easiest to grow. The next, and hopefully last seed I have to make is orange, or propulsion seeds. Naturally, these ones aren't normal either. They tend to, like their name suggests, launch themselves across the map. Yeah, very fun things. Thankfully, I can pick them up very easily, and I don't need much of it, but still, that's another gimmick that some seeds like to do. The only thing left to do now is throw them all into the pressure chamber and make them into plastic. I also finally got enough XP from my little mob grinder to get a cow. This is awesome. I obviously won't be killing it for steak because I don't need that. I have chicken and some fish from sieving dust. No, I want the milk it produces. That's extremely important because milk lets me make a cake, which helps me make a speed upgrade for my new Minecraft machines. Since I got blaze rods from the cities, I can now make a brewing stand. I have plenty of sugar from my sugar cane, but I just need nether warts. However, I prepared for that a while ago. Well, I needed the quartz, but this works for it too. So I already have soul sand, I just need to place water and sand in there first. Also, don't ask why I didn't think to just place one of the nether wart and grow it on soul sand. I didn't remember that you could actually do that until way later. So yeah, low IQ moment. Another thing I can do with those blaze rods is make a machine called a biofuel generator. However, since I didn't know how it worked, I really should have checked beforehand. It did not do what I thought it would. I was hoping this would generate power from like rotten flesh and stuff. It did not. It's a Mine Factory Reloaded thing, and that's actually late game or end game stuff technically. So, let's just say I didn't waste all those parts and just got a machine frame back. Yeah, I think that's fair. It's a bit unfortunate it didn't work how I expected it to, but yet again, haven't played with these mods in a very long time. 3 air compressors blown so far. All because I'm too stubborn to make a safety valve. Yep, or even get a safety upgrade put instead. Since my little indoors farm won't cut it anymore, I built this neat little outdoor farm. That's when I realized the issue of the propulsion seeds. Considering I only had one left and it just, well, left my perimeter, oh well, at least I don't need them anymore, right? Noticing all the issues with these plants, I realized I'm gonna have to make an enclosure, a giant greenhouse pretty much. So that's what I did over time with clear glass from putting sand in the smeltery. It takes a while to get all of the glass done, but I think it's worth it because it looks really neat. I also got attacked by a baby ghast, because those also exist. I really was not expecting that. I know that's why I've seen flying enemies, they're riding on ghasts, which is cursed in of itself, but yeah, I don't know how much worse it can get. I need all these different colored plastics and naturally tons of printed circuit boards because I'm making all of the parts of the assembly machine. So instead of having to develop or etch and then develop the PCBs, I can just put it in the machine and it'll all do it itself. But obviously it takes a ton of parts to make this machine to make PCBs more efficiently. So that's what I'm working on, and it's just taking a while because of all the stuff I need for it. At this point, I've pretty much completed all of the machinery needed to make the assembly machine. The only issue is, you may have noticed, there's one machine that's kind of off. So apparently, you're supposed to make 2 assembly units when I may have accidentally made a drill instead. I didn't realize this at the time, but yeah, that's one of my first major mistakes in this whole situation. Because once I placed everything down and I had no clue why it wasn't working, well, there was my problem. This is another situation where I've made all of the stuff already, and they're pretty much the equivalent value, so I'll just swap it out in creative real quick. The main issue is, even though everything was placed correctly, it still wasn't working, and I had no clue why. So I naturally went into a creative test to figure out how everything was supposed to work. Apparently, the main issue was the fact you do have to actuate one of them. I was really hoping I didn't need the pneumatic wrench. Man, I cannot say that word properly. But apparently I did, so unfortunately I had to build that. Gray dye is easy enough considering I have the squid seeds for black dye and plenty of bone meal. It was just a slight annoyance to do, because I also needed some red plastic to make the little platform for it and everything like that. But in the end, I made that, I actuated it, and after putting in the PCBs straight out of the pressure chamber, they cannot be etched, that was another mistake I made, it slowly, and I mean slowly, works off of air power, compressed air. This is pretty awesome, because now I can skip the UV exposure, which took forever, and of course the risk of losing it while trying to put it in etching acid, which happened quite a few times, and I'm not proud of it. Now, the main issue, like I said, is the speed at which these things work. However, I now have all the stuff to be able to fix that. I have a cow for milk to make a cake, and I can brew speed potions. An insanely useful machine to have is the magma crucible. This lets you melt down quite a few things, especially thermal expansion stuff, to make liquids out of it. For example, this lets me make more blazing pyrolithium, but I never did. Well, okay, to actually use. I did it for the quest so I could progress that whole mission line. The nether bricks have a cheaper recipe, so instead of 8 netherrack, you can just do, I think it's 2 netherrack and 4 soul sand in the induction smelter. Or it might just be 1 and 2, something like that. I can't remember anymore. The main and awesome uses of the magma crucible are melting down redstone, so I can make some products including fluxed electrum blend, because I need this to finally upgrade and make better circuit boards for better things. There's also endurium, because I have to melt down ender pearls to make the blend. So it's an insanely useful machine to have, and I can make tons of new stuff with it. It does eat up quite a bit of power though, so I'll have to keep that furnace generator fueled. The best part about being able to make flux electrum and the blend is the fact I can finally finish my applied energetics ME system. This lets me build a decent storage system with a built-in crafting grid, so I can throw everything in there and I don't have to look around chests for 10 hours anymore. But I'm still going to look through chests because I didn't put everything in there. And of course, making it is a whole thing in of itself. Not to mention, this costs quite a bit of redstone for every single part, so that gets a bit painful, but it is what it is. It's definitely worth the cost. The one thing I didn't realize is, for this mission, you actually need to make 10 blazing pyrolithium and gelid cryolithium. I thought it was just going to be 4 at the beginning. That is horrible, because these things are expensive to make. The sulfur is probably the worst of the two because you can get it from sifting sand or pulverizing coal or blaze rods. The nitrate I need to make cryolithium just comes from pulverizing sandstone. It's not nearly as bad, but you do lose a ton of sand in the process. Another one of my at least decent ideas in this run was to make a ton of ladders. These are using stone rods because, I have infinite cobblestone. And the grand plan was to dig all the way down to the bottom of the world, because it is literally just bedrock and then, 73, I think, blocks of dust? There are some rare underground structures, but only underneath graveyards. I didn't explore one in this run, but I did in creative mode. Anyways, this is a way better option to get a ton of dust. I definitely should have brought more storage for it, but hey, it's a start. Another machine I made was the planter. The only issue is I had no clue how it worked. I tried to put it in the garden and make it work, but it just never did. So, a while later, I figured out how it worked, but I'll tell you now. You apparently have to place it one block underneath the blocks you want to grow on. So, one block under the dirt here. That was insanely annoying that I didn't know that. And I kind of figured because it's facing up, so I knew it was something below, but not one block below where you're growing. There's another failed thing in this run. At least for now. I got it to work later on. One small improvement I made to this giant dust quarry is a bucket of water at the bottom, so I can quickly fall down here without dying, because that would be pretty bad. And if you haven't thought about it yet, so we're currently at 2. The top is 75. Like I said earlier, that's 73 blocks of dust every single time I break a whole stack of this. That is insanely efficient. The major issue I've been facing at this point is just horrible power generation. All of those survival generators and the furnace generator is my power production. To help fix that, I decided to make this solar generator, which I think it gives the same as the furnace generator. It's like 40. The issue is it can't make and transfer power at the same time. With a redstone signal, you can swap between the two modes. With that in mind, the general idea is, okay, just deactivate it at night so it can transfer power. And that actually worked pretty good. So this is another decent addition to my power supply. I probably should have made more and some sort of better timer circuit so it would stay on transferring power longer, because it actually produces more than it transfers, but definitely a major improvement. One major difference you might notice between this and other players' runs is the fact I did not know the minimap was disabled. Yeah, that's why the coordinates are at the top and there's no minimap. That is revolutionary now that I know it's there. I get an enemy radar so I can see where all the enemies are. Obviously, it's just going to be all dust until I get, to a city, or if you see my base. But still, that is beautiful. I don't know how I was missing that the entire run, but oh well. Like I was talking about earlier, I am facing a major redstone shortage. To help out with that, I'm going to go back and explore some more cities. At my own risk, obviously. These are insanely dangerous. But yet again, have some really good loot. Including, another thing I said earlier, but hadn't known when I was playing at that time, Endurium, which is nice because it's normally pretty annoying to get considering ender pearls and everything. So, when I was talking about difficult and dangerous? Yeah, that's the issue. Giant zombie pigman. It two-shot me. I don't even know, what I'm supposed to do in that situation. To add insult to injury, I got stuck in my own shell constructor. The worst part, I don't even remember where I died. I should have noted it down, but I didn't. I didn't even get a death waypoint, probably because of the shell or something like that. So, I had to go back to creative and find where I died. Yes, at this point, the run has been definitely cheated. But that's when I started to think, alright, this is my run, and I get to decide the rules. I wasn't having fun just dying like that. It was getting incredibly annoying, as a matter of fact. What's even worse is that was my second death. One more death and I'm out. Even though I was supposed to have a shell, both deaths, it just didn't. I have no clue why, honestly. With that failure though, I'm definitely heading right back to base. I just want to get out of here now. Here is where I finally figured out, well, after I looked it up, how to use the planter. That's going to be nice because a good portion of my power still comes from burnable fuel, like wood. So it's pretty important that I have that. I later ran another underground wire all the way to the harvester so that both of these are powered, and boom, I finally have automated trees. Mostly. Running an item duct that filtered saplings out would have been perfect automation, but close enough. Since I have a bunch of ender pearls in storage, even though I'm going to have to make more endurium later on, I can just get more from endermen. For now, I'll be using them to make this ender generator, which will also complete the number 1 set of missions, which is pretty awesome. The best thing though is this is insanely efficient. It gives you a good amount of power for like hours upon hours, even with only a few ender pearls. I think I've enders are better, and I have tons of blaze power to make it, so why not? So that's what powers the planter and harvester setup from now literally until the end of the run. That's just how long the ender generator runs for. One of the machines I've been needing to make for a long time now is going to save me so much time and annoyance with all of those exploding air compressors. I really don't know where all the clips went, because I swear, I exploded like 6 air compressors in this run. Anyways, this lets me use power to create air pressure instead of just fuel. The main issue with it is it eats up a ton of power. The best benefit though is it's 6 times as efficient as a normal air compressor, which is great considering the fact that even though I can import and export stuff with the interfaces, you still lose some pressure, which is extremely annoying to do when you only have 10 whatever units of pressure a second, probably. I'm actually not sure what the calculations are. Anyways, it's way faster. That's all you need to know. The best part about making a new compressor gives me the ability to make stuff even quicker. Most importantly, circuit boards. Obviously. And I'm going to need quite a few circuit boards because I want to make a far better jetpack. I have a mission. Since my power is so horrible, I know exactly what I need to increase my power by an insane amount. I just need to find it first. To find it, I'll have to have a better exploration radius, so I need a better jetpack. That's what I'm working towards here. It's a lot of expensive components, but I finally have the ability to make all of them. It's also quite a bit of redstone, which is very disheartening, because that's another major problem I had in this run, like I keep saying. But we're very close to nearing the end of this run, so hopefully it won't be too much worse. Besides the cost of building the jetpack itself, another slight issue with it is just how much power it takes. Well, obviously power storage is a good thing. I can fly longer, but yeah, I don't really have that kind of production, so it's going to take me a while to juice this thing up. I'm just hoping I have enough left in all of the generator's storage to be able to fill it at least most of the way so I can start exploring. I found tons of massive cities, but I could never find the reactors that I'm looking for. And trust me, once you see one, it sticks out like a sore thumb. It is impossible to miss. I don't know why they wouldn't spawn in these cities if you think about the population, how much power they'd use, but oh well. The worst part of it all, tragedy struck. I had a hang glider accident, I wasn't paying attention, and I died. I didn't have a shell, but I don't think it would have mattered either way. That's it. The run is gone. What am I supposed to do now? I didn't want to just turn this into a video, and I definitely don't have the time to redo all of that. In total, the run only took like 50 hours, which, okay, that's an insane amount, I'll be fair. Most of it was just flying around. But still, I can't do that again. However, there is one last resort. I didn't want to do this, but it's not like I can quit now. I've cheated enough in this run already, so I'm like, why not? Let's just cheat more. I still want to harvest all the stuff to make the reactor, and I'll craft it all myself using the wonderful features of Windows. I can restore the folder back a while. Unfortunately, the last save was a few hours ago, so I lost quite a bit of progress. However, bringing back my world is completely worth it. After giving myself another jetpack from Creative, because I've already crafted it, I'm not wasting that time again, I headed off. The main issue is, and I'm not even joking here, I spent many more hours. I couldn't find anything. Instead of going back to my base and recharging the jetpack, I'm like, yet again, I've cheated this much, what's a little more? I went into creative mode to eventually find my city. After all of these hours of searching, I finally found this stupid reactor city. These things are ridiculous. No, these are unreasonably rare. But now that I have one, and even better, it had 2 reactors inside of it, I can start harvesting them. I gave myself a fire resistance potion, because this is what I was planning to craft, because I had to do creative tests before this to make sure they existed and see what they looked like, and I saw that they had blaze spawners. So fire resistance is pretty important against that, especially considering when you're on fire, you heat up a ton, you can get heat stroke, stuff like that. With all of that done, I can finally start harvesting my beloved nuclear reactors. Because you can't just craft these at home, you literally have to get the parts from harvesting these reactors. It goes about how you'd expect, I just have to mine everything. The main issue with the reactors themselves is the massive amount of blazing pyrolithium inside of them. You know, nuclear, I actually forgot what it's called. It's like nuclear, not nuclear waste, but corized product? Whatever, it is nuclear waste. I brought water initially to help with it, but that wasn't that good. It just all turned into stone and became an even larger mess. The second reactor I brought dust instead, and it works a whole lot better. So there is the initial salvage of the reactors. After all this time, I'm finally back at home sweet home, but there's no rest for the wicked. We have work to do. Now that I have salvaged the reactors, and stupidly I should have gotten the turbines while I was there, but I didn't for some bizarre reason, it's time to work on, well, now building the reactor. We do have some intact parts, but we are going to have to repair a bunch, including the reactor controller, the most expensive part, of course. For this, I need more steel, which is easy enough to make. We already know how, and I love the process again. That's one of my favorite things in this mod pack. The rest is a combination of different tiers of circuits and other electronic components. The most notable thing is the fact the reactor controller takes a circuit board that requires Endurium. Thankfully, I have quite a bit of this already, but since I scavenged one from the cities, apparently it does it in pairs, so you can't just have an odd amount of Endurium. Thought that was interesting. I almost forgot to mention the other parts. Yellorium ingots are easy enough. We just smelt the yellorium dust we've got from all the dust sieving, and graphite bars. Those are also relatively easy. You just have to smelt coal or charcoal again. Unfortunately, since these are so expensive to build, I definitely can't build a massive one, so I'll make this tiny one. It's just a 2x2 inside, 4x4 on the outside. I decided to use diamond blocks to cool it instead of like cryolithium or endurium because that's what I had plenty of access to. Now that I have all the components, it finally works. I just have to throw some fuel in, activate it, and boom, power. It is wonderful. This is so much more power than I produce and can use because I don't have many machines going that actually need power. With that, my power issue is entirely solved. It is beautiful. With the reactor down, even though the steam turbines can give you more power, I actually didn't manage it. The steam gave me less power, as a matter of fact. So scavenging is the exact same, as we all know. With the steam turbine components, I can make, well, a steam turbine to add on to my reactor. Since my reactor hasn't been running for that long, I don't have enough waste, the cyanite ingots, to make all the turbine components. However, you can just put yellorium and sand to make those ingots instead. Honestly, the turbine isn't too crazy expensive compared to the normal reactor. but the whole idea is you're supposed to get all of the waste from the reactor and reuse it. I didn't have to do that. Obviously, it still requires an Endurium circuit board and everything like that, but we've already established I can make that at this point. It's at this point that I started to realize, yeah, this is kind of where the run ends for me. Obviously, I had to cheat to be able to get even this far, because I wouldn't have been able to otherwise. Overall, it was a decently fun experience up until the end to play. There is quite a bit more automation I could and should have done, but this is such an old mod pack, I didn't really know much of what I was doing throughout the entire run. In total, I think it's a good mod pack, especially for being 9 years old, but I would love if there's like a modern version of it redone, because that would be super cool, with the game actually telling you all the recipes and everything like that. Another thing, like I said earlier, I've used that so many times in this run, but it always works. This run was around 50 hours long, which, yes, is pretty ridiculous. Compact Claustrophobia did take 80, but it was a far larger mod pack. One of the biggest things I was thinking about when I was completing this is some things are best left in the past. Although it was super nice to be able to play this mod pack for myself, I think it would have just been better if I watched Sunday's playthrough first instead of doing it for myself. As for Minecraft mod packs though, I'll definitely keep doing them, and there are some I have on my mind, so don't let this one get you down just because it went so poorly. That's another thing I kind of think of sometimes, is that's why I'm not a fan of survival, hardcore, one life stuff like that. It's just not my type of fun. Because dying there, for example, there's no way I would ever want to lose that much progress. Not to mention time, especially because it takes me so long to make these videos in the first place. So if anyone ever asks why I don't do hardcore or stuff like that, show them this video. They'll have their answer. I don't want to waste that much time. The crazy thing about the steam turbine is it's probably because I didn't build like tesseracts or anything like that, so I did have a limited fluid throughput, but it was nowhere near as efficient as the normal nuclear reactor in terms of power generation. Yet again, not like I need it, but you know, I just wanted to see how much I could get. Summary of this run: fun at the beginning, diminished over time. It's a good mod pack, but I definitely cannot recommend it. There are so many better mod packs and newer ones, more importantly. And obviously that's going to be the end of this video. Thank you all for watching. I know it's been quite a bit of a mess and taking me a bit longer than usual, but I really didn't expect this run to be this long. Naturally, video editing takes so much longer than that. And a special shout out to all my channel members. Thank you guys very much as well. This is going to be a very tired Enzo from this run, signing out.